Hi. Today I'm going to give some brief bios, very brief, of Gregor Mendel, Charles Darwin, and why they're important to evolution, what their life's work really was. For that, it's easy to look at it visually, it's easier to explain, and more fun. I mean, I don't really want to look at myself all the time. Let's see. We're going to start with Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel was a priest in a church, but he also had a hobby, and he was very diligent in recording the results. He'd gone to school and learned how to do experiments and record the data scientifically. So he was going to breed pea plants. And the belief of that day was that if you bred two things together, that the resulting offspring would be a blend of the traits. And that's what would happen. And like the paint, once it's blended, you can't really get the original colors back. So that is what they expected to see. And in that case, when Darwin breeded wrinkled peas and smooth peas together, the prediction would be that the plants would produce maybe a slightly wrinkled smooth pea. So a blending of the traits, and that was going to be what the offspring would look like then on. But Mendel discovered something quite different. It's easy to say that it was like Russian stacking dolls. So let's say this was the wrinkled trait, the orange one. This was a smooth trait, and then this was the height of the plant. When these dolls are nested inside each other, you only see this outer one. So you would only see the wrinkled trait. I think that's what I called it. Even though the others are still there, you just can't see them. And then if you rearranged them or took them out, you would see other ones. Maybe you could get rid of this one and you see this one. You still won't see the green one. So this is how the experiments actually turned out. Even though he bred the plants together and they originally only showed one of the traits, and wrinkles showed up again. So he knew that they hadn't blended together, they were separate, and he was able to publish his findings, which we use heavily today and were heavily influential in evolution. But sadly, at his time, he was simply mocked for it. People didn't see the significance, and he walked away dejected and didn't really further any scientific discoveries because he wasn't accepted well. So it's a really cool person who had really bad luck with the people and didn't know just how influential he would be. It's too bad he wasn't recognized. So we are now going to go to an individual that was recognized, two actually, and they're grouped together due to their discovery. So Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace are both credited with coming up with the theory of evolution. Poor Wallace, you don't hear about him as much because Darwin thought of it first, and he also published a lot of work on the subject. Whereas Wallace, although he came up with the same idea, wasn't so public, I suppose you could say. Now, although they came to the same idea of evolution, they did so in different ways. So Darwin thought of evolution as somewhat like a ladder that eventually turns into a tree. So here, this person, they have to go up the ladder, and as the rungs get higher and higher, it's different. And it was split into branches, and that's how organisms evolved. So Darwin relied heavily on the animal evidence through breeding and such to come up with his definition of, well, to come up with a theory of evolution. Wallace looked at it a little differently. He looked at it like a big puzzle, and he could see the pieces, but they were all split apart, but he could see similarities. He put them together and realized why organisms were found where they were found, and he assumed that the continents must have broken apart, and then animals became different afterwards. So, sadly, and kind of humorously, the two met, and let's say this first individual is Wallace, and he's like, "Oh, are you ready for this? I've got a new idea." And Darwin's like, "Yeah, sure." And then he realizes it's the same idea, so he's not really ready for it. And he doesn't know what to do because he's a very honest guy. He doesn't want to be thought of as stealing Wallace's idea. Luckily, they worked together, published their evidence together, which only added support to the theory of evolution as they approached it in somewhat different ways. So there's some of your wonderful scientists in history and what they were known for and are still known for today. I hope you enjoyed this and that you know more about them than you used to, and I will see you another time. Thanks. Bye.